Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this joint webinar between Embrace and Object Matrix. I am Bill Baker. I'm a senior engineer at Embrace, part of the engineering team, and with me is Mark. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Mark Apperfield. I'm pre-sales engineer at Object Matrix and also responsible for all of the third-party integrations.
So let's get on to what we are here to talk about today. So Mark, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So we'll do first of all, we'll just do a company overview. Obviously of Object Matrix and Embrace, give you a little bit of our history. And then we'll go into the product, give you the technical information about MatrixStore and the PulseIT. And then we'll have a look at the workflow, how they work together, how it benefits us and how it will work out in the world. Then we'll be going into a live demo and we'll quickly show you some of the back end of how we set things up and how it looks on the MatrixStore and then with PulseIT and then obviously the two delivering together. So this meeting is recorded and we'll get it out on the wilds as well, so you could watch it back should you need to. And obviously if you've got any questions, pop them in the window and we'll answer as and when we spot them or as we're going along. So yeah, let's get straight on with the company overviews then. So Object Matrix is a software company from sunny South Wales. We've been pioneers of object storage for many, many years. The company started back in 2003, but our founders have a history that goes back further than that. They helped build one of the first object storage systems. It's still in use today in many countries, and certainly they learned what they could from that experience and went out and did it a little bit better with the Object Matrix MatrixStore. We mostly focus on the media industry. We've got customers in several verticals, but most of those customers are all using media workflows, but particularly to today's kind of thing, we're looking at business continuity, self-serve and remote working. I mean, everyone's talking about these things quite a lot recently, but we've been doing this for many, many years. We've been focused on helping our customers achieve business continuity. We've been focusing all our applications on helping the end users access their metadata, search their assets, find them, and allow them to be creatives, generate income from those assets. And more recently, our tools for the last few years have all been driving towards remote working, but of course, everyone's putting that into place now, having their interfaces available to their end users on the remote way of working. We want the media managers to do less effectively. We want the people not to have to go into the office to change tape drives. We don't just the end users be able to get their data. If they're allowed to, we keep it safe, secure, and focus on making sure the creatives can do what they do best. On the next slide, we'll see a bit of a history of the company milestones. So like I said, we started back in 2003. And the founders, they built themselves an object storage system and an API. Well, back then, they were very, very early to market. Nobody really knew what those two things were, even though they're common things that we all talk about today. So in 2005, they set up a small cloud archive. Again, far too early to market, but we did have a few customers in the Netherlands using effectively one of the first object clouds out there. In 2006, we sold a couple of systems into what were effectively some of the first object creative workflows, where we were the back end, allowing those creatives in a few companies to be able to have access to their data as and when they needed it. From that point, we started focusing on the media industry. We saw the need was there and how our applications could help them. And so we started driving our applications in that direction. We brought out what we call MXFS, MatrixStore file system, which allows those creatives to have direct access to their objects as if it's a file system, but with all the extra benefits of metadata, etc. And then in 2009, we did a deep Avid integration where we started getting more customers who wanted that tie-in to their online Avid production asset managers. Those customers are still with us today, nearly 11 years later, and they're still working on their Matrix stores, and we've grown with them. We've changed the hardware and brought it along. They stuck with us because we're so flexible. They're not just buying a system that they're going to keep for 5 years and then get rid of. They've bought into us for as long as possible, and we're being flexible through that. From 2009 onwards, we've just grown, and now we've got over 200 customers and many, many petabytes of data out there. In fact, in those first 7 years up to 2008, we sold probably 7 petabytes, and in the last 6 weeks, we've just sold 7 petabytes. So, you know, it's a changing world out there, and people need access to that data and see the benefits out there. It's not just full media workflows. I mean, majority of them are post houses, news organizations, sports companies. We've also got several FX houses have just come on board, and even new to us is ad agencies are coming on more and more. Corporate wise, more and more corporate entities coming on board because we've got that secure system in the background that meets all those necessities that the security side of things need. And this is our standard company slide, just tells you about it, all our customers. Some you'll recognize, some will probably be new to you, but again, all over the world, everything from Japan through the Asia Pacifics, quite a lot in France, the UK, North America and Latin America.
Cool, thanks Mark. So Bill from Embrace here again, just to reintroduce myself. I'll just take a second to tell you about our company. Just a reminder as we go through this presentation that it is very much an interactive session. We have people online to answer the Q&A from both organisations. So please do use the Q&A button, which you'll find on your Zoom bar as we go through, and we'd be delighted to answer any of your questions. So to introduce us, Embrace. We are a company headquartered in Paris, but we work with customers all around the world. And our mission is to produce software that automates systems and connects people. So we work solving operational workflow pains for the media and creative industries, bringing together humans and technology and providing some nice workflow synergies. We, much like Object Matrix, and funnily enough, there's a lot of overlap in our customers as well because our solutions work so well together. But we work with a wide range of customers. We have, for example, Eurosport Discovery, who use our automated product for automated promo versioning to generate about 900 hours of promos a week. Orange, who are a large French broadcaster who leverage both MatrixStore and Embrace products heavily. And we're very proud to have a close relationship with a lot of our customers. We have regular roadmap sessions with our customers where they'll feed back into the product development, and a lot of the functionality and features that you see in Embrace products have been driven by them. All our products are about integration and connectivity, and therefore we depend heavily on our strategic partners and work very closely with them. Obviously, Object Matrix, who we're here with today, but we also work with major brands such as Adobe and Avid, AWS. All of our solutions can be deployed into AWS. Cantamo, the Mamb, and Woody, the video processing and post-production tools manufacturers. Just to tell you a quick bit about our product portfolio, we have 3 products: AutomateIT, ShareIT, and PulseIT. AutomateIT is our promo versioning platform that allows you to automate creative video production processes. It allows you to generate large volumes of customized videos automatically built on top of the Adobe Graphics Suite. So you can use your existing After Effects templates, but automate large-scale production of outputs. We have ShareIT, which is our collaboration tool for Adobe Video and Graphics tools, After Effects and Photoshop. This allows you to connect After Effects and Photoshop into leading media asset management systems, such as Avid Media Central Production Management and Cantamo Portal. And we have PulseIT, which is what we are here to look at today alongside MatrixStore. This is our next generation open workflow design system. It allows you to connect human tasks, automated tasks, and connect different potentially siloed systems within your environment into business processes. And you can schedule and automate and supervise complex workflows through that platform. So now I'm going to hand back to Mark, who's going to tell you a little bit about the MatrixStore product.
Yeah, so what is a MatrixStore? Well, MatrixStore is a true object storage platform with the metadata, data, and policies all held together in a true object. It's built to be optimized for media workflows and generally your workflows, and we try and achieve that with massive efforts with our fantastic partners such as Embrace to ensure that your users get a great experience. Hopefully you'll see from these slides and demo that you'll know that MatrixStore is more than just a bit bucket or a file system. It's really got that added bonus of features that allow you to really look after your data. On the next slide, you'll see kind of how we break that down and how we do that. We coined the phrase digital content governess a little while back, where we're protecting the data. We're making sure it's really looked after, bit for bit perfect, constantly checked. Only people with the correct access have access to it, with then a full suite of audits to make sure that even if someone does have access to it and it somehow gets out of the system, you know exactly who it was and where it was. We do this by having vaults that provide multi-tenancy, different protection options throughout the hybrid workflow, and then the full business rules support, deciding who has access, when they have access, when they can delete, what's the life cycle of those assets. And then also we've got the built-in disaster recovery and business continuity. That's a bold statement, but again, it's the disaster recovery is there to allow the hybrid workflow between multiple Matrix stores, or should one of your production systems go down, you know you can get back to your data because it's safe on the Matrix store, as well as business continuity, getting all that back up and running within minutes, you know, not within hours, not within days, keeping you up and running through your life cycle and in your workflows, whatever hits us out there in the world. How do we do it? We do it with the metadata and the intelligence. We've got that full metadata support, manual metadata entered and automated metadata with our process in place. Again, we're media industry. We like the media. We know the media. That's our passion. So we are there extracting the metadata that we see in media assets, the IMFs, the AS11 or AS10 metadata, XMP, even camera metadata and all the usual stuff. We make that visible to the end user so that they can make sure they can get back to their assets. We've also got the powerful analytics side of things as well. We've got a full tool called Sense that allows us to see the assets through their life cycle, monitor the hardware, the software, as well as the vaults and the seeing where that data is, when it's being used, what's hot and what's available and what's being used at that particular time. Unlike other storage systems, which have just got one interface, an S3 interface or an API, we've got multiple interfaces. We've tailored it over time. We've fed back information from our users and from our multiple deployments, and we've developed our applications to make sure they're usable and suited for your media workflows. We do have the API and we do have our S3 interface, but we've also got MXFS, MatrixStore file system, that's used, making it look like a file system. We've got standard Samba, NFS, FTP, but then we've got those add-on programs, the Dropspot and the Vision, that are looking into your MatrixStore. They're not using databases, they're not caching things, they're looking at the data live on your system and that metadata at the same time, making these things searchable and usable for people. It's integrated into many file-based and IP workflows, and we can fit all of that in there for a future-proof workflow. It scales, so you can start off with a small 3-node system and build that up to multiple nodes. We can use multiple generations of hardware, so it's not just going to be a doorstop at the end of 5 years. We will add on nodes, we will migrate the data seamlessly, and we will make sure that in 10 years' time, we're still there with you, adapting to your workflows and making sure that we're looking after you out there. And that's where we work with these continual integrations into new media workflows, as well as applying that self-serve from a hybrid cloud and a private cloud side of things. On the next slide, we'll see how it's actually deployed. No, we won't. We'll see the apps first. So all those apps in a bit more detail. We've got the Interconnect app down in the bottom right-hand corner. That's the one that allows us to read the metadata and the data from your Avid environment. We can set that to automatically run via policies, so you're backing up the data all the time, or you can trigger these things manually, park your data for a while until you need it back on your production storage. Not only are we keeping it more safe with our security protocols and our backup, we're also making sure it's available to you should your production storage be unavailable, as well as restoring it to any other Avid environment as well. So, you've got the full workflow to disaster recovery and business continuity. I mentioned the API, standard file system and interfaces, SMB, NFS, and also the Dropspot, which is where we start to bring in that metadata, the ability to add specific metadata that's customizable to you, and that metadata can then turn into folder structures. Again, bringing the benefit of anyone using the file system interface to be able to see the metadata or navigate through the metadata to get to the assets they need. In the top left, we've got Vision, which is our web-based browsing of your MatrixStore. We'll have a look at that in more detail later, but it's the way we look at things and see a nice view on your assets. Again, great for internet use and self-serve because you can use it from anywhere. We securely host it, or you can securely host it from your location, and that data can be uploaded, downloaded, shared, various workflows, tagging, and making sure you've got access to it. From an S3 point of view, we've got two products. We've got S3 Connect, where we look like an S3 bucket, and equally we've got Move to S3, where we can push things into various compatible S3 systems, and even from there, control the policies down to deeper archive, the Glacier, the cold archives. So you're safe to know you've even got a third or a fourth copy in a public cloud that hopefully you won't be paying the egress costs for because it's just your final emergency backup copy. I suppose now we move to the last slide where we'll see exactly how we deploy. I mean, 9 times out of 10 people opt for an on-premise cloud of some description. Again, we can open up just the one port in your firewall to allow access to the Vision interface, or you might decide to just allow people access through your VPN tunneling, etc. But more and more we see people using the hybrid approach. They have some on-prem and then they've got something in either a data center, a private off-premise cloud, in something in the public cloud where we're replicating a third or fourth copy into a cold archive. And more now we're seeing uptake of the MatrixStore cloud, MatrixStore as a service, MatrixStore cloud, where we've got the data center. We'll just sell you the bit of the storage that you need to back up just those assets that you need, or to have a workspace for sharing, etc. We've got many customers in the UK using this to quite some extent. You can have a direct pipe and use various apps, or you can have just the public internet. We'll make sure we're using secure connections, keeping your assets safe. We're just about to deploy into France, but we've also got several customers down in South Africa using it quite a lot as well. As you can see by the combinations, you can, not only have a very secure disaster recovery and business continuity plan, you've also got fixed cost as well as sovereignty. You know where it is when it's in your private cloud or your vault in a MatrixStore as a service, because you know exactly where that asset lives. It's not in a public cloud somewhere that could be backed off to who knows which country. You know exactly where the data's staying and who's got access to it, and all of your fixed costs throughout that. I hand back over to Bill now. I think it's your turn to talk about PulseIT.
It is, yes. So thanks, Mark. That was great. So I'm just going to take a second now to tell you about PulseIT, which you'll see in today's live demonstration, which is as I said earlier, our workflow orchestration platform. So what does that mean in a bit more detail? Well, PulseIT is designed to connect users, systems, and processes. All of our products started life as user applications first. They had humble beginnings as Adobe panels that were there to automate a specific task or specific workflow, and our products have now grown into platforms in their own right, which can orchestrate a huge range of tasks, whether that's in graphics or in other broadcast media workflows. We are experts in user-centric design because of that. So PulseIT is all about automation and integration. So perhaps you have different systems which are siloed, so they don't conventionally talk to each other. On premise, maybe you have a MAM that doesn't talk to your transcoding engine. Your transcoding engine doesn't talk to your cloud storage or your on-premise storage. PulseIT is designed to be the glue between those systems. Now, there are a number of automation systems out there, but what we really bring is a user-first design within that. So it's very easy to have highly automated workflows, but also include user tasks within there. So using PulseIT, maybe you want to have a user review content before it is pushed out to be published on social media or pushed into the archive. Perhaps you want to have a user enrich metadata. Humans are good at those things, but they're not good at moving files around, making sure they're in the right place, in the right format, and putting them, and making sure they've got the right file extensions. So PulseIT's combined approach affords some very nice workflows in that area. We have a powerful workflow designer all built in HTML5, so there is no need to install software. It's very easy to roll out across your entire facility or organization. And we would love all our customers to use our interfaces, but some of them just use our APIs. So the whole platform is API driven. We use our own APIs to make the product as well, which we believe is very important. And we have some of our customers who will use PulseIT as a black box behind the scenes. Their users don't know that it's there, and it connects their disparate systems. Or we have other customers, as I say, whose users are in front of it all day, every day. It's fully scalable as well, so much like MatrixStore can be deployed on premise, in the cloud, or you can take a hybrid approach. It's fully horizontally scalable, so it can grow with you as your demand and throughput grows. I'm just going to take a second to tell you about some of the tools within the platform. So at the core of the platform is our graphical workflow designer. So this allows you to really quickly and easily connect different systems and processes. It allows your authorized users to define rules. They can automate routings, set permissions, create custom notifications, deliveries, deliver to any kind of location, which you'll be seeing today in our live demo. So both technical and non-technical users are able to easily manage workflows, combining human intervention and their preferred technical tools. You can have your more technical users building and preparing the workflows, and the less technical users leveraging them and leveraging the benefits of automation. We include 60 tasks out of 60 plus tasks, I should say, out of the box. They can be through from things like file IO, writing to different systems, whether that's your MatrixStore, cloud storage, your high performance editing storage. They can manipulate and act as a funnel for your data. So PulseIT supports all the standard structured data formats like XML, JSON. It supports other APIs as well. So if you wanted, if you're a sports organization and you wanted to automate the retrieval of statistics data from your database to push through to your traffic system or your MAM system, that's the kind of thing that PulseIT can quickly and easily adapt to do. We have a full scripting framework, so it's very easy to extend the platform that has a scripting engine based on Python. We have web APIs, connections with transcoding tools, messaging systems, whether that's sending emails or connection into your business messaging systems like Slack or Microsoft Teams, and connections with AI services. But really the thing about PulseIT and Embrace as a whole, we don't want to be the company that is making a million different different connectors for every system and maintaining them and charging our customers money just to consider making a new connector for a system which only they will use. We work hard to provide frameworks. So if you look through our task list, you see things like our inbuilt REST messaging action, our inbuilt SOAP messaging action. And that means even if you're not a developer, even if you're not someone who writes scripts, you can quickly and easily adapt PulseIT and connect it into your existing systems, thereby protecting your investment in your existing infrastructure. We've got really good feedback and good stories of our customers who we have deployed PulseIT to, not heard anything from a month or two, and found out they've themselves connected PulseIT into their QC system, their transcoding system, their business ticketing system, all using our frameworks and tool sets. So that's why we make PulseIT, and we use it a lot ourselves for those purposes as well. Now, I've talked quite a lot about the automation, but PulseIT is as much about automation as it is about users. And we like to say that PulseIT is powered by forms. So you can completely customize the PulseIT user interface. And whereas you have the more technical workflow designer, you can build forms for non-technical users to interact with at points in your workflow. Here you can see, this is sped up, but using our drag and drop form designer, you can drag and drop in and design without coding all sorts of different types of forms to gather user input, different types of fields that make sense for different inputs. And all of these forms can be backed by other databases, other stores as well, whether that's using, for example, a specialized media selector to browse media that's included on your storage, like your MatrixStore, directly browsing media from within the media on MatrixStore from within PulseIT, or that's showing data, as I mentioned earlier, from your stats system, having sports producers select players' names from a database, for example. And one of the other things that we also include, obviously you can use our standard look and feel, but we also include a full CSS editor, or what you see is what you get CSS editor. And that allows you to completely style the interfaces as you want. You can see an example there of that on the right. You can add your own branding, your own look and feel, and we often find that the feedback from users that are working on PulseIT, they kind of forget that they're using someone else's product. They feel like they're using their own tools. So that ultimately helps to increase adoption of automated workflows within your facility. So we have automated workflows which connect and automate machines, and we have forms which allow users to interact with the systems. And at the heart of PulseIT, we combine those in a concept called sequences. So sequences connect user tasks and those forms that we just saw with automated workflows. And you can think of those as describing a business process. You associate the forms and the workflows in our drag and drop designer. And you can also associate tasks to a user or a group of users. So perhaps if I review my media as a producer and I'm not happy, I can have that automatically rejected and assigned to my supervisor for them to make a decision on. As you'd expect with any system, which is the heart of a business process, there's detailed execution monitoring, and much like MatrixStore, full auditing and sequence history, so you can see exactly who has done what and when in real time. And we provide a specialized view for your non-technical users to quickly and easily view the tasks that they need to perform for that particular day or time period. Okay, so now we're going to step back again and look at the combined workflow between the two products now. Mark, do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, so you can see from the diagram, MatrixStore is there as your secure storage layer, and PulseIT ties into it using the S3 Connect application. So that basically allows PulseIT to see us as an S3 bucket, but also allows it to pass metadata to and from us. And it's that metadata we can then use to trigger workflows or allow the platform to be cross-usable as well. So you can then use it in conjunction with our other MatrixStore applications such as Vision, Move2, MXFS, etc. So you've got the PulseIT layer doing the automation, the logging, the ingest, the conversions. You can search and find using Vision and your traditional MatrixStore applications, but then you can also run the projects and the playout. And then you just got the MatrixStore application Move2 doing the archive side of things as well. So, and again, we're working it so that through the S3 Connect application, the metadata can trigger that move to send to deep archive and restore from deep archive. Within Vision as well, you've got playable proxies, and again, we're trying to get PulseIT is doing the generation of those thumbnails and proxies. So you've got the playable view within your Vision application as well. So yeah, should we just have a quick look at the demo, run through it?
Let's have a quick look.
I was having a few technical issues earlier, so we've decided to run this directly. As you'll see, our applications are quite nice and easy, so I'm just going to direct Bill to go to the...
I will drive today.
So you can see we've got up here the MatrixStore admin tool, web admin tool, so you can administer it from anywhere where you've got access to that network, all secure SSL ports, etc., with secure login. It gives you an overview, but the system itself is broken into vaults. Those vaults are effectively... Thank you. Those vaults are effectively buckets, and that's where we apply some of our policies. Are we going to have dual copy? Are we going to have replication to another MatrixStore? Are we going to have lockdown data for a certain amount of time? We got the built-in trash cans, and also that process in place is all controlled from here. From a users and groups point of view, it does exactly what you'd expect it to do. We've got users, and if you click on the demo one, you'll see several tabs that have given us the permission into specific vaults and what level of permission they've got into them, as well as individual access keys. When you're working in that S3 environment, you need S3 access keys, and then a full suite of capabilities as well that give you actual rights to do specific things within specific applications. So you could essentially have a view-only reader within there. We've got the built-in node audits down the bottom there, which show you exactly who's been doing what on the system. And if you change the audit one down to the demo vault, that's the one, you'll probably see some audits kicking away, and everything's audited, all the reads, writes, deletes, anything that an admin does where they change a rule or permission, you'll see all of that pop up in there. Now, all of that is also complemented by the Sense application. Again, another web interface that allows us to see what is actually happening within your MatrixStore. So you've got the generic hardware overview, which just tells you what's happening, nice little dashboard where you can see peaks and troughs, etc. But again, we could dive into cluster statistics and individual node statistics, etc., that tell us what's happening, again, within each vault. And we can change the granularity on that. There's another one called Vault Statistics as well.
Yep.
But again, these are constantly growing. If you came to us with a specific need where you wanted to monitor the flow of data to and from your deep archive, for example, we could show those sort of things coming and going within the dashboard. And it gives a nice rounded view, so you can monitor the life cycle of your assets and your projects using the vaults and the Sense database. So I mentioned vision quite a lot. This is our view into the MatrixStore. It can be completely customized. If you log out for me in the top right, you'll see that I made this one look a little bit special just for this particular webinar. But you can change those color schemes and those logos and those backgrounds. So you really get ownership of it. You own the product. It's your end users who'll be using this. There's no reason it shouldn't be skinned up for you to use. When you sign in, you can see on the left-hand side, you've got the vaults that you've got access to. And when navigating around those vaults, you'll start to see your assets popping up in there. If they happen to be videos, and if you happen to have generated the proxies for them, you'll see those videos are playable now. If it hasn't got a proxy, but it's playable by the browser, you'll see that. If you double click on an asset, it'll actually pop up as a full-sized one, and we've got the full JKL support, as well as changing the time code, etc. And then from there, you can download the high res or the low res in the top right-hand corner. If you click that little eye as well, you'll see all that metadata has started to be extracted. So there's a system metadata as well as the file metadata. If this asset had some XMP, we'd see all of that in there as well. And of course, we also tag all that extra metadata, whether it's come from PulseIT or whether it's come from our own extraction or our own tie-in to the deep archive. Some of the other features in there, like I said, we can set those capabilities. So you can set whether the user's got permission to upload, download, restore from deep archive, send to deep archive, as well as some extra ones where we can share expiring links and add extra attach assets to assets, so that you can add the sound file to it, or the QC file can be added in. Metadata forms, again, built in, extra metadata tags, so you can decide to start adding the features that you need into the system as and when you need it. So again, and then the full search capabilities as well. That search bar at the top searches on your assets, finds them. You can filter it down on the left-hand side to tie it into date, etc. as well. And also search on the metadata form, should you find those sort of things. So that's about it for vision. I think if I hand back over to Bill to show you PulseIT, and then I think he'll show you it PulseIT driving into vision as well.
Yes, thank you, Mark. So I will just log in. So again, I'm logging in through our web interface here. Here we're going through a VPN, but this could of course be hosted in a cloud environment or at a completely different site to your MatrixStore. They both work on modern, secure communication protocols that work over the internet. If you want to leverage them in that way, you can of course close them off, but they can talk from different sites or across multiple sites. So I've just logged in. There's a lot of features in PulseIT which we don't have time to go through in the entirety in this webinar, but I'm going to focus in on a few of the key areas. So this was a sequence that I built a few hours before the webinar. It's very quick and easy to build, and this shows combining user tasks, as I mentioned here in green, with automated workflow tasks. And this is a classic scenario that we see a lot of our customers using PulseIT with MatrixStore. So here a user is going to select media. So I've just clicked here and I can now edit the form in place. So they're going to select media. In this case, we're going to browse some local storage, but perhaps you could be browsing an S3 bucket and you want to retrieve media that's been uploaded and pull it down to store it securely in your MatrixStore system. So that's going to be the start of our sequence. After that, we are going to, in this case, generate a proxy using the FFmpeg transcoder. PulseIT talks to lots of other transcoders, whether that's something like Route 6 Content Agent or Telestream Vantage. And we are going to generate a bunch of auxiliary and ancillary data for the MatrixStore. So a playable proxy, some keyframes, a BIF file to give a scrubbable thumbnail within the user interface. So we'll generate that and feed that all in to MatrixStore. Now, once we are happy, once that's been generated and processed, we're going to review it. So I have not. These are not particularly styled forms. As I mentioned, you have a CSS designer, so you could add your own styling as well onto that. We're going to review our media, and we're going to look at some of the properties, choose which vault we want to push it into, and we're going to augment the metadata of our clip with a description, which will be pushed directly into MatrixStore. And then we'll move that media to our chosen vault using our S3 Connect. So interface with MatrixStore. So let's start that. I am going to go and start that sequence now. So this is one way you could start a sequence. You can assign priorities, deadlines, due dates, and these could be automatically assigned or triggered as well. So for example, we have a number of customers who use Slack webhooks, for example, so they can respond to messages in Slack to start sequences that assign jobs within PulseIT. So I'm going to start this sequence now, and let's go and look at our user jobs. So the user jobs, this is the job management view, and these are my jobs. So you can see I've got one task left over from earlier, which is my review media, but what I'm going to focus on now is my select media. None of these have a particular priority or due date, but you could, of course, order, filter, and sort if you're an operator by those criteria. Let's go and open that up. And again, if I'm an operator, a non-technical user, the system can be configured to hide all of the other configuration from me. So I'm just looking at the simplest user interfaces. So let's go through, and I'm going to, as I say, I'm browsing some local storage in this scenario, but all these thumbnails are automatically generated as I browse through the directory. So I don't need to pre-prepare these or anything. These are made in a very short time on the fly when I look at media. Let's go and select that media. And as I hover over it as well, I get a scrub. Again, that's generated very quickly on the fly. I'm going to give this a media title, hello from the webinar. a date, which I'm ingesting it at, and a time. These, of course, could be any fields backed by databases in any sort of structure. So I'm going to accept that now. And that's now going to go on and start running my sequence in the background. While that's working, let's go and look back at the same sequence at the next workflow that it's processing. Sorry, while that proxy processes, let's look at the next sequence that we'll run. That's what I mean. So as well as pushing media into MatrixStore, PulseIT can also read from MatrixStore. In this particular scenario, PulseIT is constantly scanning new volts and new media by last modified date that lands in MatrixStore based on particular criteria, and it's pulling them out and generating proxies. We can then review the media in this scenario and then choose whether we want to keep it or move it to another location. This is particularly useful if you have a scenario where PulseIT is not the only gateway into your MatrixStore system. As Mark's shown you, using the Vision user interface, you can directly upload media and modify media in there. So you can have PulseIT listening and reacting to events in the system and generating proxy and media and connecting that into other systems as they go along. Let's go back and look at my user jobs. So you can see here again that my clip has come back. I've got my scrub now, and now I've got my next task. So you may not have seen this earlier, but previously my job was select media, and we've now progressed through to review media. So we've got hello from the webinar, which is the video, the title that I chose earlier. I'm just going to mute that so I don't deafen myself with my headphones. But here you can see we're playing our media through. We have waveforms, so users can quickly and easily see where media and audio is within their clip. At this point, I'm going to choose which volt I would like to push my clip into. Again, this is a completely customized form. So if you don't have volt 1 or volt 2, or you want to use the workflow logic to automatically choose the volt that the clip should be deposited into and the permissions and the metadata, that's absolutely up to you. That's what the workflow designer is there for. In my particular scenario, I'm going to push into volt 1. And I'll give it a description, which is, hello, Cardiff, from Paris. There we go. Okay, so I've now done that. I've reviewed my media, which has been created. I can now click accept, and that task is now done. And that's going to go and trigger the last step of the workflow, which is going to go and push our clip into Vision. Into MatrixStore, and we'll be able to view that within Vision. So let's just go and look in Volt 1. The proxy is still being uploaded, but you can see hello from the webinar is there in the system. So in this scenario, PulseIT has acted as a gatekeeper, a gateway into MatrixStore, ensuring that all the media and ancillary assets are created properly, asking for user input, which when necessary, we find that combination of user input and automation between systems is very valuable and a very effective workflow for customers that are leveraging both solutions. In this particular scenario, we have a very simple metadata set, but you could, of course, have PulseIT calling into different databases, different APIs, calling into your news system, and automating the metadata, which enriching the metadata, which Mark showed you earlier in Vision. Cool. And that is the end of our familiarization demo. So let's go back to the last slide. And I think Mark, that we now have time for some additional Q&A.
Yeah,
unless you would like to say anything in addition
no,
to
what
that.
you said there was great, and you can see how it's all working together and improving the workflow and making things simple for all that self-serve, self-delivery, self-find, and collaborating in the workflow.
Mark, what's a kind of typical use case or scenario that you could see, other scenarios that we haven't covered today, that you could see PulseIT and MatrixStore being a high value solution for customers?
Well, like I said, that self-serve is the key at the moment. People were working remotely and in that hybrid cloud, making sure the data's in the right place as well. And I'd hope to think that soon we'll be able to trigger events even more with the metadata. So, a customer adds a little bit of more metadata to their object in Vision. The PulseIT system picks it up and moves it to the system. So, the night before, someone goes in, adds some metadata to 10 objects, and PulseIT overnight goes and pushes it to a different storage ready for work in the morning. So yeah, it's certainly the collaboration side, customer end users working on the same data remotely.
Right. So a few attendees have asked some questions while you were giving us that answer, which is great. So Mark has asked, what about monitoring the process for transfer to Vault? So what we didn't have the time to show there, Mark, was the overview interface, but there is a full monitoring interface that will show you live percentage progress of that transfer into the system, whether you're doing that over the internet or locally. PulseIT also features what we call callbacks, which you'd be familiar with as a programming term, but this allows you to respond to events in the system. So on success, something can be automatically triggered, and even if something goes wrong, which of course it never does with the PulseIT MatrixStore combination, but even if something were to go wrong, there's a fail-safe catch-all that will feed back to you and pass data perhaps into your Slack, your monitoring channels, your other business continuity systems. Darren has asked what MAM/PAM API integrations are currently available with PulseIT. So off the shelf, we have integrations with Cantimo Portal, and the Avid product suite, and Vision, which as we can kind of see is kind of a lightweight asset management system in that way. We also, but as I kind of alluded to earlier, the real value of PulseIT that we provide is frameworks that allow you to quickly and easily plug the platform into anything which uses a standard interface, such as a REST or SOAP interface. So we have service providers, for example, who have written their own MAMs for customers that are using PulseIT to ingest content into it. They have no professional services from anything from us. They use that using the frameworks that we provide. So there are really lots of workflow opportunities, and we also publish and can provide examples of integrations into other MAMs. James has asked, other than description, are tags and custom metadata forms created in Vision transferable to PulseIT and vice versa? The answer to that is absolutely yes. We had a rather dull and unimaginative metadata form there, but PulseIT and Vision can transfer data back and forth. They both follow the same metadata syntax and structures, so you can build very complex forms and data structures within PulseIT and transfer those directly into Vision and vice versa. Nick has asked which organizations would benefit from PulseIT and MatrixStore. So I mean, That's a very open question, but obviously, obviously we've focused largely on traditional media organizations today. But anyone that needs to keep their content secure, that doesn't, and wants to keep it organized. And part of that is obviously the storage, but part of that is ensuring that the ingest is consistent into that as well, which is what PulseIT is there to help with. Would benefit from the combination. And we have customers such as educational institutions, advertising institutions, less traditional media operators using both.
Yeah, I think pretty much anybody using media out there at the moment with large amounts of it, you know, any post house or sports or news organizations, the ad agencies, you know, anybody really with a fair bit of media would benefit from this integration.
And Mark has asked one question. So any tight PulseIT integration with Vision on the roadmap? So this is a direct integration with the file system. So all of the functionality that the file system supports, we're leveraging within there. As Mark kind of alluded to, we're looking at further ways to integrate perhaps stuff back from Vision and improving the user experience between those two elements. Mark, is there Mark, is there anything you would like to say more on that?
So technically, there's a little unknown feature in DropSpot that allows you to put customized buttons into DropSpot. And it's a feature that's been on our roadmap to add into Vision for a long time. So effectively, you end up with a customized, just as you saw the ability to add metadata, etc., you'd have customized buttons on the drop-down menu. And that would just be as simple as you click that drop-down and the button, it would put the right bit of metadata onto the object. Of course, we know PulseIT is watching our metadata for any changes. So once it sees that change, it would trigger the workflow. So the answer is actually it works today with DropSpot in that function. And in the very, very near future, I'd like to think it'll be in Vision as well.
So we are no more current outstanding questions. So what I might suggest we do is we finish up neatly on the half hour in a minute or two. So yeah, thank you everyone who attended today. We hope you found it useful. We certainly enjoyed telling you about the MatrixStore PulseIT combination. You can see here our contact details, both for Embrace or Object Matrix. So please do get in touch. We'd love to continue the discussion or discuss any more thorny workflow requirements that you may have. Mark, is there anything you'd like to say before we finish up?
Thank you everyone for joining us. I believe we had 20 on at the start there, and most of them stuck around to the very end. So I hope it's useful, and obviously you know where we are if you want to contact us for any help or any questions or just to have a chat.
Great. Cool.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Thanks very much, Bill. Yep.
Cool.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.